the most powerful pro-lobby in the United States, pro-Israel lobby in the United States. They just cut an ad. And in that ad, they didn't hide. They didn't whisper. They didn't pretend to be neutral. They didn't stand in front of the camera, and they bragged, okay? They bragged. They bragged that they are the top fundraisers for the Congressional Black Caucus. They're the top fundraisers for the Hispanic Caucus. They're the top fundraisers for the Asian Pacific American Caucus. They're the top fundraisers for the Progressive Caucus. The top fundraiser for the Equality Caucus. I want y'all to sit with that one for a second. We got a foreign lobby, right? A foreign policy lobby. They are funded to advocate for another country. They just told America on camera that they the sickest, biggest check writer to the same Black caucus that's supposed to be fighting for us. And somehow, the preachers in our pulpits and the pulpits on our screens with these pundits, right? They still want you to shut up. They want you to stop asking questions and just go vote. No demands, no conditions, just vote. So tonight, we're going to show you who owns the receipts, y'all. We're going to show you who owns the enforcement arm when you ask for something in return. And at the end of this episode, when Roland Martin said nobody's doing the work, right? I'm going to hand y'all 5 bills by name that the organization that I'm a part of, NAASD, has already put in front of Congress. So sit back, relax, lock in. If you ain't on YouTube, come on over to the conversation. Let's have one. This is It's Culture. Let's get it.
I made it out the door, but the bullet stayed in me. Left the block physically, mentally, it's still with me. Scars don't heal, just cut the scenery. Change some wounds, only show when you finally say I got exit wounds, yeah, they won't bleed loud. They ache in the quiet when I'm not around. I survived the storm, but it been in my youth. You can lead the streets, but the streets lead proof.
Welcome, fam. I'm Mark Stevenson. This is It's Culture, where I talk about everything from politics, trending topics, entertainment, politics, you name it. I cover it. Why? Because I think it's all part of the culture. And if you're new here, we are on our way to 20,000 subscribers, y'all. We're on our way to 20K. So if you have not hit that like button, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please do so. And all I ask is that you share the videos with other people so they can get turned on, and that's how we continue to grow Culture Nation. So to those of y'all who already subscribed, thank you for subscribing. To those who have already shared my videos, I really, really appreciate it. I really, really do. Helps me continue to do this stuff, man. Helps me continue to do this stuff. Okay? I can't do this without y'all. Okay? These numbers don't move without y'all. So, so tonight, if this lands with you, share it. All I ask, send it to one person. That's how we grow. Okay? Shout out to my homies that's already in the chat. Yep. So tonight's episode, hopefully y'all be here the whole entire time, because I know how people are about live streamings, right? Y'all get turned off. But tonight's episode is going to be in 4 parts, right? It's 4 moments in this tonight. Okay? There's 4 clips, but it's all part of an arrangement, right? I'm going to build into this. So I want y'all to see how all these things tie in. So the first clip is AIPAC, okay? The American Israel Public Affairs Committee. They released an ad this April bragging in public that they are the top fundraisers for the Congressional Black Caucus and 4 other Democratic caucuses, right? And then I'm going to show y'all some clips from Roland Martin's show the other night, because he played a clip from the Reverend Dr. Otis III. He's a senior pastor at Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. And from the pulpit, pulling the conflation move that I need y'all to watch with your full attention, okay? And then clip 3, we got our good brother, another Georgia boy, Black Alpha Network, shout out to him. He was at a Kamala Harris event, standing up and telling her reparations or no vote. And then security escorted him out of the building. Like they always do when you disrupt these things, right? When you show up asking for something or demanding, or you telling them what you're about, they kick you out. Okay. And then the last clip is gonna be Roland Martin, right? Okay, because on his own show, he's telling black folks who condition our votes to name 5 issues, right? He said, show 218 in the House, show 60 in the Senate, show a president that's gonna sign it. And then he had a man sitting next to him. He had this white commentator, a white T-man, right? Named Brian Shapiro. He agreed with Roland, and then he called us, and I'm going to quote this precisely, ill-informed and perhaps uneducated. Ill-informed and perhaps uneducated. So we're going to do 4 clips, 1 arrangement, all right? So this is how it goes. AIPAC buys the politicians. The pulpit confuses the pews. A black man gets physically removed from a room for making the demand. And then a white commentator on a black show finishes the job by telling us we're too stupid to know what's good for us. And at the end of all of this, when Roland said, show me 5, show me your plan, I'm going to show him. I'm going to show him ours. I'm going to show him 5 bills that NAASD has already submitted, has already been advocating for on Capitol Hill for the last year. Okay? So I'm going to show him ours. 5 bills. You know, right? By the names, dollar figures, all that stuff. Okay? So let's get into this, y'all. Stay with me tonight. Stay with me tonight. And if you ain't on YouTube, come on over YouTube, tap into the live chat, get in the conversation. I love to see your comments. All right. So let's start here. We're talking about April 2026, right? That's the month we in right now. AIPAC released an ad campaign. And I guess it's supposed to represent a genuine strategic shift. Because for decades, AIPAC operated the way a lot of these powerful lobbies operate. They do it in silence. They do it behind the scenes. You know, they show up at the primaries, they drop 7 figures to knock out a candidate who asked the wrong questions about Israel, and then they disappear. You know, because they didn't want the spotlight. They wanted the result. Well, that changed this month. So analysts tracking the organization note that AIPAC is now on the defensive. Okay? So when a powerful institution gets defensive, they stop being subtle. Instead of hiding their influence, they just straight up advertising it now. They are openly flexing that they got the financial reach to remind both parties, but especially the Democratic Party, who's cutting them checks. Okay? Who is buttering their biscuits. So watch what they actually say. Watch whose names they drop. I just want y'all to check this out.
Well, I appreciate the relationship that I've had with AIPAC from the very beginning of my congressional journey.
The pro-Israel community fully embraced me.
AIPAC played a very important role in my political campaign. I think it really helped it take off.
Thank you to everyone at AIPAC for their deep and long-standing friendship. It means a lot to me.
Oh, okay. Y'all, where do we start? Okay, where do we start with this? Where do we start? Y'all saw the video in their own words, they on camera. They saying that they are proud to help elect pro-Israel Democrats, right? They named the Congressional Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, the Asian Pacific American Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, Quality Caucus, you name it, they named it, right? So you got a lobby whose entire legal interests are for the state of Israel. They just put on camera that they the #1 financial patron to the Congressional Black Caucus. Pro-Israel lobby. Not the NAACP, not the Urban League, not black voters, not black donors, AIPAC. AIPAC. And this isn't even a wild accusation from some independent media. You know what I'm saying? So you got The Nation, right? They are a mainstream progressive magazine. They ran an investigative piece back in October. If y'all go check it out, I'll put it in the chat. Not in the chat, but I'll put it in the description so y'all can go check that out. It's called The Congressional Black Caucus's Silent Partnership with AIPAC. So their reporting found that more than half of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus have received either direct funding or endorsements from AIPAC and its affiliate PACs. More than half of the caucus. This caucus is supposed to represent us. It's supposed to represent us. It's supposed to represent us. And they got their hands in the cookie jar with AIPAC. I'm going to give y'all a story from up here in Ohio where I'm at. Because Chantel Brown was in this video. She represents Cleveland, right? She represents she represents Cleveland Heights, Akron area. That's what she represents, right? So when she ran the first time, she ran against Nina Turner. So everybody know who Nina Turner is. I don't have to go into that. We know her credentials. Nina Turner was out there 10 toes down. Now, you know, she got some other things that she's about, you know, that I don't really support. But if I can get 80% out of a politician, then I'm pretty satisfied with that. Okay, we got to play politics here. Nothing is gonna be absolute in this game. So we got to play it the way it is. But if we can get politicians that speak our language, that's going to advocate on our behalf, then guess what? I'm going to support that. So Nina called this out publicly, and she used the right word. She said that these people, these Congressional Black Caucus members, were selling out. They were selling out. At the DNC committee meeting earlier this year, right? Because they got together the DNC got together. They had an internal resolution on the table to specifically name and condemn AIPAC's dark money role in the primaries. Because people were calling this out, specifically by name. Leadership watered it down into a generic condemnation of all dark money. They all lives mattered. This situation with this resolution, they all lives mattered. They refused to name their buyer because the buyer was in the room. They were in the room. So when AIPAC makes a commercial and they can brag, they ain't lying. They are not lying. They are describing the arrangement exactly how it is. They pay, the caucus takes, the DNC protects, and the voters, us, we get told to show up in November and clap. Don't ask for nothing for your vote. Just show up to the polls and clap. Show up to the polls. These people are a one-issue lobby. It's Israel only. They don't care about nothing else. They just want to make sure that the United States continues to bankroll Israel. And they use their power, they use their money, they use their influence to do it. And our politicians are bought and paid for it. We just saw an ad that they basically said we bought them. That's the reason why Charlamagne the God calls Hakeem Jeffries AIPAC Shakur. Bought and paid for. Bought and paid for. They're happy to take this money. They're happy to go do the lobbying and the bidding on behalf of them. But when we come asking for things for our community, then all of a sudden, no, we can't do that. And then we say we ain't gonna vote. We ain't gonna vote. Then we're gonna get with the Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III, senior pastor of Trinity United Church of God in Christ in Chicago. He's a son of a civil rights giant, grandson of a man who was denied the right to vote 3 times in 1946 in Georgia, stood in the pulpit, and he gave about a 5-minute charge on this very topic. So I'm gonna let the clip roll. I want y'all to see what this man said.
I recently heard a young black man make a statement stating that he does not do politics, and then went on to say that he does not vote. It pained me to hear a person who benefits from our ancestral struggle claim he did not vote because it does not make a difference, according to him. This young man stating this ignorance with his full chest. Voting does not make a difference. Black people have only been full citizens in this nation since 1964, the year the Civil Rights Bill was passed. This act ended legal state-sanctioned segregation. This act was part of a long battle that began when we arrived in this country. And for the purposes of this 5 minutes, I want to highlight several cases that shaped this battle. In 1857, the Dred Scott decision stated no black person had any rights a white person was bound to respect. This legal decision effectively stated black people were not citizens of the United States. Even if born free, we were not fully protected nor seen as human. In 1868, the 14th Amendment was passed. All persons born or naturalized are subject to the jurisdictions thereof. In other words, citizens. But the Confederacy and those descendants of the Confederacy wanted to find a way around this amendment. In 1882, they passed the Chinese Exclusion Act. No person from Asia could come to the U.S., and those who were already here could not be citizens. This was the argument that was used to create in 1896 what we know as Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal. The work of Black, Native American, along with Asian people led to the 1943 repeal of the Chinese Exclusion Act. This victory provided legal and organizing energy for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that gave us full citizenship. This timeline is about faith, moral courage, and politics. Politics literally means the affairs of the city. For those who say they don't do politics, to choose not to vote and not to be informed is to give your power to people who want to take your rights away. The Supreme Court recently heard a case from this administration that seeks to appeal or to reshape a portion of the 14th Amendment and put back in place a portion of the Dred Scott decision and the Chinese Exclusion Act based on their legal argument. Thankfully, most, let me say it again, most, not all of the Supreme Court, those on the Supreme Court, sounded annoyed and skeptical of the Trump administration's case to take away birthright citizenship. This is why we are called to do 2 things. Stay informed, not through a headline or your phone or social media, but do something, let me tell you right now, so revolutionary, so dangerous, so subversive it could get you in trouble. Read a book.
Okay. Read a book. Read a book. That's what he said. Read a book. Okay. I want to be careful here because a lot of what, he just said was historically accurate. Dred Scott was real. 14th Amendment was real. Chinese Exclusion Act was real. Plessy versus Ferguson was real. Civil Rights Act 64 was real. The Supreme Court looking at birthright citizenship sitting in front of the administration right now is real. So I'm not going to sit here and act like this, like a black pastor giving this congregation a civic lesson is the enemy. I'm not going to do that because he's not. The lesson needs to be taught. But watch the move he makes. I want you to watch it carefully, right? Because this is the move the whole political establishment makes. And most folks miss it because the history lesson is so solid that they don't see the rhetorical knife. He opens with the very line with, I recently heard a young black man make a statement that he does not do politics. And then he went on to say that he does not vote. A brother who said, I don't do politics, I don't vote. It doesn't make a difference. That is a non-voter. That is a non-voter, okay? That is a brother who has checked out. That is apathy. So Reverend Moss spent 5 minutes teaching us that apathy is ancestral betrayal. The people died for this vote. Their ancestors walked 20 miles. That Dred Scott and Plessy and Chinese exclusion and the 14th Amendment all live and die on whether you go to the polls. I didn't show the end of this clip, but because I'm gonna paraphrase this part, but he said, let's get ready for November. Not in November, let's get ready right now. And here's a sleight of the hand. Here's the move. Reverend Moss opens with a non-voter and closes with unconditional voting. In the middle, he never, not once, distinguishes between the brother who said voting doesn't matter and the brother who said voting matters so much, I'm going to demand something for it. Because those ain't the same people. Those are opposite people. One of them has quit. And I know a lot of brothers, I got a lot of homeboys who have quit. I know a lot of them. Some of them watch my channel. They have completely checked out of the political process. And see, this other brother, right? The other one, he done raised some expectations. Because if you watch that clip from the back pew, it lands like this. Anybody who questions how we vote, what we vote for, what we demand in exchange, gets swept into the same bucket as a kid who checked out. That FBA voter who says no reparations, no vote. He hears that sermon and he hears himself getting called an ancestral traitor. How many of y'all have heard this? If you say that you ain't gonna vote, they say that the ancestors didn't die for you to be sitting out of voting. Then you say, okay, what am I voting for? And then they give you a list of a lot of stuff that you don't support. It happens every single day, even on Sunday, right? This happens every single day, even on Sunday. You have people who sit up there and they chastise you because you want to question, why should you be going to the polls when these people are not addressing your issues? And when you say something, they turn around and tell you that they got beat on the Edmonds Pettis Bridge and they got dogs sitting on it. They want to go through this whole entire litmus test of all these things that historically happened to our people that we are very, very aware of. Simply because you are asking for something to go vote for. And the things that they are bringing to you, you're not interested in voting for those things. But they want you to vote for them anyway, because that's their agenda. That's the agenda of AIPAC. They get to advocate and tell politicians, guess what? If you're not going to support our cause, we'll just raise the money and get a stepping fetcher in here to do our bidding for us. And we'll vote you right up out of here. Or we'll just spend a bunch of money on attack ads and all this stuff to make sure that you don't vote. Or because we own all the polls, we'll sway the polls in a way to make it seem like you would not get no type of support, so people will not come out and vote for you. We know this game already. Politics is an exchange. It is not a gift. There is an equal exchange in this. We have not been getting anything besides feel-good stories and first. That's all we get with this. You get called an ancestral traitor. You're an ancestral traitor. Even though you might be doing the most ancestral thing, honoring thing that you can do. You are doing the most ancestral, historic, and honoring and giving reverence to your ancestor because you're doing something with your ballot, which is demand that it be paid for. See, our ancestors didn't just go to the polls and fight to get the right to vote just so they can go cast a ballot for some white tea person. No, they went to the polls to vote so they could get what they wanted. That is the conflation here. Non-voting equals conditional voting. Apathy equals accountability. And once you accept the conflation, the Democratic Party, right, they can take $10 million from AIPAC, refuse to name AIPAC at their own DNC meeting. They can vote against reparations or any other bill that we want to throw in their face for, I don't know, the umpteenth times. They will sit up there and tell you that they need 218 people in the House, 60 in the Senate to do anything. Also, they also need a 6-3 majority in the Supreme Court, and they need the presidency. They need all of that, and you still owe them your ballot because your grandfather walked 20 miles to go vote. Now, family, the ancestors didn't walk 20 miles so we can be a cheap date. Okay? They didn't walk 20 miles so we could not have leverage. They walked those miles so we could have leverage. A vote without conditions is not power. A vote without conditions is a tip. It's what you leave on the table after a meal at a nice restaurant, whether the service is good or bad. And I say this because it needs to be said. Reverend Moss did not invent this conflation, okay? He's the son of a man who marched with Dr. King. His grandfather, right, was a martyr for the franchise. So I'm going to honor his lineage. But the framework he preached that Sunday, whether he meant to or not, is the exact same framework the Democratic Party needs to keep taking AIPAC checks. His exact framework is what the Democratic Party needs so they can continue to take AIPAC checks without ever paying us back for our vote. So you confuse the non-voter with the conditional voter, and you shame them both. And then you turn around and you harvest this turnout, and then you ignore the demand. So, because let me show y'all what happens when somebody refuses to be confused. Because when a brother stands up and makes a demand loud in public, face-to-face with the politicians, watch what the room does to him. I want y'all to check out what Black Alpha Network did. Shout out to that brother. Shout out to Black Alpha. He doing good work. He was with Marcel Dixon, our good brother Marcel Dixon, who's ran against Clyburn a couple of times in the 6th District of South Carolina. They were together. Take a listen.
You are gifted. You are important. You matter. You come from people. There is pride. There is pride.
On behalf of foundational Black Americans, we demand cash payment reparations, Kamala. On behalf of foundational Black Americans, we demand cash payment reparations. You're not going to use our ancestors' legacy to give money to illegals, immigrants. We're Foundation of Black Americans. We built this country. We're not voting for you. We're not voting for the Democrats. And we're not voting for anybody until we get paid. Remember that. FBA. Come around. FBA. Cash payment reparations.
Go.
We're walking. We're going. Let's go.
They immediately, okay? I didn't say immediately came over there to that brother and snatched him right up and said, hey, it's time to go. Time to go. Time to go. But see, this happens at a lot of places. When these politicians show up to do these things, they don't want to answer these questions. And I get it. She was there to do her book tour. She's soft launching, if you will. That's why she's on the chitlin circuit. That's why she's everywhere going around, saying, hey, be transactional and all this stuff. She trying to get ahead of the ball curve. We already see this playing out. Okay. So, you know what I'm saying? That's Black Alpha Network, y'all. You know what I'm saying? He didn't throw anything. He didn't threaten anybody. He did exactly what civics textbooks say to do. He stood up in a room full of voters and a candidate, you know what I'm saying, who, well, I ain't gonna say candidates yet, okay? We'll say a politician, right? He stood up in front of me and told her, in plain English, what his vote would cost. His words paraphrased: reparations for Foundation of Black Americans. You don't get my vote. That's it. That's the whole demand. That's the exact kind of demand AIPAC makes in every single primary cycle, right? And nobody walks AIPAC out of the room. They let them roll with it. So when we show up and we start doing the same thing, they say, oh, they kick you out. But then you got the same people saying, why y'all not showing up to the Republican events doing this? What's going to happen there? Same thing, right? Going to get rolled out? We'll show up. Y'all like black people not going to these events, telling these people what time it is. Y'all like, we're scared to go to Republican spaces and disrupt their stuff. Like, really, like, what's going on here? What's really going on here? You know what I'm saying? You got Black Alpha Black man in a room full of black voters at an event with a black woman, quote unquote, okay? All he did was stood up and do this basic thing voters can do in democracy. He named his price. And for that alone, he got walked out the building by security. By other black people in the room shouted at him. Might have been some white tea people in there too shouting back. Because I want you to sit with that image for a second, because that room, that conference center, wherever it was, that room is America in miniature, right? This is the whole arrangement in about 40-something seconds. The candidate, if they want to be a candidate, this is what they do when you show up to their events, when you show up to their campaign rallies, right? They ain't got no answer to the questions. Security handles it. The audience handles it. The pundits will handle it later. The pastor will handle it on Sunday. Nobody actually has to address the demand, because the demand itself is offensive. How dare you ask a politician to do their job? That's just like, did y'all see what happened up in Philadelphia with the mayor? She told people, how dare y'all tell me that I can't tax y'all and I'm the mayor? What? Lady, you're a public servant. You got voted in by the people, and just as quickly as you got voted in, they can recall you and vote you right back out of there. I think these politicians, they done forgot that they public servants. A lot of them have. They think we owe them something. No, this is not how this works. You want to go to Washington, D.C., you better be doing something for us. That's how this supposed to work. See, for too long in our community, we just been wishing and hoping and praying. That's all we've been doing. Wishing, hoping, and praying. I hope that they're a black person, that they're going to go in there and do the deed, go in there and be good to us. No, we're done with all this hoping, wishing, praying shit. Okay? We're done with all that. Either you come with the tangibles, you come with a black agenda, you come with what time we're on and we're telling you what we want, or you don't get our vote. You don't get our vote. We don't have the money to put into a PAC. Maybe we should. Maybe we should get a super PAC and see if we can raise money like AIPAC does, and then start taking these politicians out left and right all across the country if they don't want to talk about what we're on. Maybe that might be the move. Maybe finally listening to Dr. Claude Anderson's Powernomics is the actual move. Since everybody loves to read, right? Go read a book. Go read Powernomics. Since everybody wants us to go read, like we uneducated, right? We don't know. We ain't got no sense of whatsoever on what we need to do. We're just out here just dumb idiots. We're just dumb, right? We're just dumb. We don't know what's going on. Somebody got to tell you you're uneducated, right? That's their go-to, because you know they love to holler about all these degrees these people got, not knowing that, hey, look on that wall, there's degrees back there too. You know what I'm saying? This thing is upside down, y'all. That's what it is. Because AIPAC, they take out an ad bragging that they own the caucus. No consequences. The caucus keeps that money. Nina Turner said it out loud. She catches hell for it in her own party. This brother here, Black Alpha Network, he stands up and says the quiet part, pay us. And he becomes the problem in that room. Melrose was the problem at Al Sharpton's event, right? Called him a paid agent. In the room, in the moment, on camera. That is not a democracy, y'all. That is a membership club. And membership terms are clear. You can ask politely in the language that we approve through the channels we control, or you can get walked out. That's what that does. That's exactly what that does. Which brings me to the press, right? Okay? Because once the brother got walked out, once security does its job, the media, you know what I'm saying, their media arms, right? The people who get $500,000 to do a sit down for softball questions, right? Those people, the ones that are in these secret societies, right? The ones that like to highlight that they're in the Divine Nine with me. And they don't like brothers like me in the Divine Nine because they say that I'm on some other stuff, right? We're the Coons, the Uncle Toms, all of that. We're that, right? We're the ones. We're Black MAGA, as they say. Even though I ain't never voted for Trump, yeah, somehow or another I'm Black MAGA, like everybody else. If you knew black media, right? So the new black media is the problem. So they got their own little press. They got their own little press. And see, the job of their media in this arrangement is to make sure that every black voter watching at home understood exactly what the brother did wrong, okay? So Roland Martin, in true Roland Martin form, sat down on this show, and he had this white tee man next to him to let us know. So I'm going to play this clip because this is Roland Martin on his own platform. Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black Star Network, the biggest black political operation in the country right now, the network that has, in July, hosted a Zoom call with 50,000 black men and raised over $1.3 million for Kamala Harris in one night. Roland talking about black folks who vote, who, you know what I'm saying, who want conditions for their vote. I want y'all to listen to him carefully. Listen for the challenge and the issues, okay? So here we go.
This back and forth, Brian, is to me the reason I think it's nonsensical. It's because if you don't vote, then you're guaranteed to get nothing. Like so you're like, okay, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to say anything until you give me what I want. But I can't even attempt to give you what you want if I don't get elected. And then there's a primary process. So if you want somebody to deliver you something, then maybe you support that person in the primary. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, you're not voting. So therefore, you can't even get the candidate you want to win the primary to run in the general. It's all idiotic.
Yeah, Roland, I agree with you. And, you know, for these people out there that were Trump supporters and now they're not Trump supporters, but they say, well, I'm not going to vote for a Democrat, so I'm just going to sit it out. Yes, I'm sorry to name call, but they are. If you want to talk about tangibles, let's talk about the $175 billion that Trump and his administration stole from the American people with tariffs. That doesn't just affect African Americans, it affects everybody. Let's talk about this war in Iran that's costing us $2 billion a day when he takes 20 million people off of Medicaid and food stamps that's in this supposed big and beautiful bill. Oh, yeah, by the way, when Joe Biden left office, what was the unemployment rate for African Americans? What's the unemployment rate now? By the way, the entire country, everything's gone up. Inflation, the unemployment rate, private sector job growth has gone down. That affects everybody, especially minorities and people in this country that are living paycheck to paycheck. Those are the people that are struggling, that are paying $5 a gallon for gas in this country. But we're told, just be patriotic, spend.
Family. I want to talk about what we just watched, okay? Okay. All right, because at the end of that, Roland said some stuff at the end. I'm going to play it again because I need to get to the end.
This back and forth
here, so let's take a listen.
To get the elected officials to actually pass it. That means that you're involved in the electoral process. And this idea that I'm just going to sit out, or the silly thing, well, you know, they're just two, you know, I'm not going to choose between the lesser of two evils. Well, I'm just letting you know, one of them is going to win. And one of them will be voting on a series of issues that impact your life. So you might want to recognize that reality.
Might want to recognize that reality, right? So he said he wanted to know, in that clip, he said 5 things, 5 issues, right? Name them. You want reparations? Show them your plan and action. Show them your lobbying efforts. Show them how you're going to get to 218 votes in the House, how you're going to get to 60 in the Senate, how you're going to get a president to sign it. Hold that challenge. We'll come back to that in 60 seconds because I promise you I'm bringing y'all 5 bills when I come back. Because first, I need to talk about this man sitting next to Roland. This Brian Shapiro guy, white commentator. Shapiro. I'm pretty sure he's Jewish. On a black political show. And I want you to hear what he said because it's one of the most revealing things I've ever heard to say it out loud. When the conversation turned to tangibles, to the word tangibles, to the word tangibles, to the word tangibles, which in our community has a specific meaning. We're talking about lineage-specific repair for the descendants of American chattel slavery, foundational Black Americans, the American freedmen. This Brian Shapiro said, and I quote, if you want to talk about tangibles, let's talk about $170 billion that Trump and his administration stole from the American people in tariffs. Okay? That didn't just affect the African Americans, it affected Americans. It affects everybody. Stop. Rewind. Listen to that in your head again. We got a white commentator on a black political show hearing the word tangibles, a word coined for our specific historical debt, and immediately he redirects. Immediately it becomes universal in everything. Immediately start talking about what real tangibles are: tariffs and immigration, Medicaid, inflation. Things that, quote, affect everybody. They affect everybody. This is the oldest move in the American playbook, y'all. When black people name a specific debt, and here's how we gonna pay it, the response is always, well, what about everybody? What about everybody? What about everybody? Was everybody included when Grace Mean got $30 million to go hand out flyers for Stop Asian Hate? When her district got $30 million? Was that everybody? Did everybody community get $30 million to go out and hand out some flyers? Why they love to universalize our demands. They love to dilute our claim. They love to turn our specific debt into some generic grievance that gets solved if everybody gets solved for everybody except us. And let me be clear about what I just watched. I watched a white Jewish commentator on a black network redirect the reparations conversation towards universal economic grievances at the same time that AIPAC, a pro-Israel lobby, is running ads bragging that they bankrolling the Congressional Black Caucus. You could not write this in a script for a movie. You couldn't write this in a novel because the editor would send it back. Too on the nose. Nobody would believe it. And yet, here it is on tape on Roland Martin's show. Roland Martin sitting there like this. How y'all gonna get to the votes? You don't vote. And then you got Shapiro finishes his job. He looks into the camera and says, black voters who are conditioned to vote ill-informed. Perhaps they're uneducated. A white man. Yeah. He on a black show called the Foundation of Black Americans who are demanding the debt get paid uneducated. I don't even have no words for this. I got words. I really do. But if I used them, I would get my entire channel struck down. I would tell you this. If a black commentator went on a predominantly Jewish network and called Jewish voters who conditioned their vote on the Israel policy ill-informed and perhaps educated, you know what they'd be called? An anti-Semite. That's what they'll get called. That commentator's career would be over the next day. Not 1 week, the next day. Matter of fact, it might, soon as he get off camera, his career might be over it right single there. They would be having this person trying to get with some rabbi to sit down and have a conversation so they could turn around and come out and apologize and go on an entire apology tour. We have seen this happen too many times. But on the black show, white commentator can call us uneducated for asking for our great-great-grandfather's unpaid wages. I just went over this with the debt. Those of us who had who have grandparents who fought in World War II who never got the ability to use the GI Bill. Those people, Roland Martin says nothing because the arrangement holds. The arrangement holds. The arrangement holds. We can get back to Roland because he issued a challenge in that thing. I didn't show that part. He said he wanted to name 5. Name 5. He said, show him the plan. He said, show him the House, show him how you get the Senate, show him the presidency. Roland, respectfully, man, let me introduce you to my organization called NAASD, National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants. A 501c3 that I helped co-found with some amazing people from all over the country. With some amazing people, some of the most brilliant minds that I have ever been around. See, we've been going to Washington, D.C. We've been going to talk to these legislators. Matter of fact, we've been doing this for the last 8 years now, straight. We have not taken a break. Well, 7 years. Let me get it straight. I'm coming up on 8 years. We have not taken a break since 2019. We have not taken a break. We have not taken a break since 2019. There ain't no hashtag, not a tweet. We talking about packages. We talking about some of the people who actually had their hands in getting AB 3121 across the finish line in California, who got some more bills on the table out there in California. We talk about some people who are involved in what's going on with the reparations bills in New York, in Illinois, Minnesota, Maryland, Boston. So we're talking about people who have networks of other people who are doing the same work all across the country. A nice network of people, reparationists. So when you sit up and say that ain't nobody show you the bill, who are you, first of all? Who are you? You're not a politician, you're not a legislator. So why would somebody be showing you anything? But since you asked for it, because that's what you do on your show, you know, you ask for these things and you bring people on and you try to make it look like idiots, and you have these folks who cannot articulate anything because they don't do politics, but you just want to embarrass them and make them look crazy. So I'm gonna show y'all some formatted congressional bill standards, right? Some short titles with some finals, with some sections, with some dollar figures, 5 bills. And right now they don't have bill numbers, so we're just gonna go 001 through 005. So we came up with this thing called the Repair Act. The Repair Act is it's a bill. All right, it's a bill. It's an entire reparations package. There's a lot of different bills in there. So when we drafted this thing, we came up with the idea that each individual bill, each individual subsection had to either be a full package or it could be split up into smaller bills so they could be incorporated into larger bills that are already on the books. Since Trump is in office, we have been looking at what Trump promised black people when the Blacks for Trumps were out here talking about, you know, the Platinum Plan. Said, okay, let's revisit this Platinum Plan from 2020, right? Well, let's go back and revisit what they were talking about. Let's see how we could turn reparations bills out of the Platinum Plan and get some things for our community, since we can't never get anything done, it seemed like, right? So let's hold the Republicans accountable for what Trump said, since he's the president, right? Since they say we never go to anybody else, we always bashing Democrats. Okay, we're gonna reverse Uno this, and we're gonna take this to the Republicans. Okay, so with this, with what we call these pillars, right? We're gonna call them the Platinum Plan pillars. It's opportunity, security, prosperity, and fairness, which means this package is written with bipartisan introductions, right? It doesn't need a Democratic supermajority. It can move on Republican votes. We did that on purpose. So Roland said, name 5, here are the 5. Okay, number 1, they can restore the Freedmen's Bank. They can reestablish the Freedmen Saving and Trust Company, the bank Congress chartered in 1865 and watched it collapse in 1874 from fraud at the top as it was federally chartered. Okay, the minimum treasury finding, $83.9 million. That time value equivalent of assets held at closing. So when they closed the bank, it was about $83 million in there. So now we're talking about long-term target. Where Trump said he wanted to give $500 billion. Guess what? Put the $500 billion into the community. Okay. Let's recreate this bank. Put $500 billion in it and allow that bank to be used by American freedmen descendants to be able to apply for loans, business grants, and opportunities. See, they had the money. Our people had money, and they were told to put it in a bank, and it got taken from them, and they never got their money back. So guess what? We're coming to get that money back, put it back in the bank. We're gonna account for inflation, put $500 billion in it, and let's get the ball rolling. We can start off right there. Not saying this is end all be all, but we can start right there. Like I said, this bill doesn't require 60 votes in the Senate. It don't require all this. It could be done bipartisan, because this is what President Trump said. All it does is reestablish what was already taken. Let's see if we can get this bill across the finish line. We're talking to politicians on both sides of the aisle about making that happen. Number 2, bill number 2. We're going to call this one the Freedmen's Economic Empowerment Act. It creates a dedicated contract and set aside for American freedmen-owned businesses. We didn't say race-based. We didn't say black. We said American freedmen-owned. A dedicated SBA program, right? reduce rates and parent technical assistance. Realign the opportunity zone designation to prioritize the historically red line ones and de-invest in the de-invested freedmen communities. All right. Since they got all these opportunity zones and they say this is where we're supposed to be getting our wealth from, guess what? Let's realign these opportunity zone designations for American freedmen so we can go in. $500 billion in capital access, 3 million new jobs, right? 500,000 new black-owned businesses. That was the target for the Platinum Plan. Those are the numbers straight out of the Platinum Plan. Let's introduce that tomorrow. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about bill number 3. Let's talk about the Community Safety and Justice Act. Okay, this bill's on the second step. The bill's on the Second Step Act on top of the First Step Act. Okay, Trump has already signed this into law. Let's take it a step further. Let's do the Second Step Act. Let's expand the earned time credits. Let's retroactively look at the sentencing reform. Let's look at reentry support. Okay, plus the Department of Justice highest standard policing guidelines for federal funding tied to compliance and independent community oversight. Okay. This is what we can do. The First Step Act passed in 2018 with 87 Senate votes. Second Step Act is the sequel. The coalition already exists. So why we can't get this act done? Like I said, you said 5 bills, that's 3. I got 2 more to give you. An Education and Opportunity Act, right? We want them to codify long-term HBCU funding. I see I'm representing my HBCU. Shout out to Fort Valley State University. All right. We want to codify long-term federal HBCU funding. Establish the Department of Labor tailored job training. Okay. We want them to establish some stuff in the Department of Labor. Some tailored job training for American freedmen aligned with opportunity zones. A lot of these kids don't want to go to college, right? A lot of them might want to go into a trade. We're down a bunch of electricians. We need a bunch of plumbers. We need a bunch of construction workers, right? With all these people getting deported out the country, that skilled labor is needed right now. You know what I'm saying? How about, since we're talking about black churches, right? Because they, talk about black churches sometimes. These faith-based institutions that love to take money from us, that don't do anything in the community that much. Let's let them equally, compete for, federal education and work dollars. You know what I'm saying? Those faith-based institutions. The HBCU long-term funding was signed under first Trump administration. So this bill just codifies it so it can't be rolled back. That's all it does. Okay? So it's already halfway to law. So we might as well go and finish the job. And the fifth bill is Healthcare Equity Act, right? Since now that we got a black woman as the head of the CDC, working alongside HHS, right? See, HHS has this annual reporting about, disparity, eliminations, right? So we're looking at dedicated maternal mobility reduction initiatives. I saw clips earlier. They were talking about black women's health and black women maternal mortality rates. The Congress was talking about that. Okay, well, here's a bill for it. What about since people wanted to, talk about Justin Fairfax last week, talked about mental health and not talk about him unaliving his wife. They want to make it about the mental health thing. So let's talk about getting some mental health services tailored to intergenerational trauma of being an American freedman, being a foundational black American in this country. Let's look at getting some mental health services that's tailored to that intergenerational trauma. That PTSD that Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about, post-traumatic slave disorder. We know that black women are dying in childbirth at 3 to 4 times the rate of white women. So this bill just puts a federal office on it with benchmarks and a deadline. So Roland, Brian, that's 5 bills that are already drafted, already formatted, that have already been submitted. They sitting on the Senate side waiting for a sponsor and sitting on the House side waiting for a sponsor. They align with the Republican co-sponsors for the Platinum Plan. And they align with Democratic sponsors. So these 5 bills that I just listed are designed to move on a bipartisan vote so it doesn't die via filibuster. You said show you a plan of action. That's a plan of action. You said show you the lobbying effort. We've been on Capitol Hill. We have engaged congressional offices. We have participated in the White House data working groups on reparation policies. We got a scheduled HBCU tour coming up in the fall that we're calling From Knowledge to Power, when we're going to be hitting 10 HBCU campuses this fall. You said show you 218 in the House and 60 in the Senate. Here's my question to you. The Congressional Black Caucus has over 50 members. AIPAC, by their own ad, is their top fundraiser. When is the caucus going to introduce one of our bills? When is the caucus going to whip the votes for any of these bills? What about the Second Step Act that 70+ senators already voted for the first version of? When is the caucus going to use this AIPAC money that they give to them for one single lineage-specific bill for the people that they're named after? That is my question. That has always been the question. Because see, that question was never where's the plan? The plan exists. The plan is drafted. The plan is on NAASD.org's website. Y'all can go download this stuff. The question is, why is the caucus, the AIPAC bake rolls, not introducing our plan? And why is the biggest black media figure in the country right now, instead of asking the caucus that question, is asking it of the voters? You want me to ask somebody to name 5, Roland? Ask Hakeem Jeffries to name 5. Ask Jim Clyburn to name 5. Ask Chantel Brown to name 5. Ask Richie Torres to name 5. Ask one of more than half of the Congressional Black Caucus receiving AIPAC money. Ask them to name 5 lineage-specific bills they have introduced to Congress. I'll wait. We will all wait. We all gonna wait. We all gonna wait. It is not our job as voters to do the legislative work of representatives who are taking money to represent us. That is the representative's job. That's literally the job description. That's why they get a salary. That's why the voter's job, our job as voters, is to condition our vote. And that is what we're doing. That is what we're doing. So let me leave y'all with this, right? Because AIPAC did us a favor this month. They really did. Because for years, the story of who actually bankrolled the Congressional Black Caucus was something you had to dig for, right? You had to go to opensecrets.org or something to go find it. You had to go read the campaign filing, the finance filings, right? You had to go read The Nation. They might, put an ad in it or whatever, right? They might name the caucuses. That whole arrangement outdated itself. See, the pulpit, these preachers, they still gonna preach unconditional voting. The press will still call us uneducated. They're gonna say that we Russian bots, we trolls, black MAGA, all this other stuff, right? You show up to an event, start asking questions, they're gonna still walk you out of those rooms. That's all gonna continue. See, that is the job of these institutions in this arrangement. Our job as foundational black Americans, our job as those who are asking for tangibles for the vote, our job is to stop being confused between the non-voter and the conditional voter. Because they're not the same person. Asking for something in exchange for your vote is not apathy. It is the most basic political act there is. Every other constituency in this country does it. The unions do it. Environmentalists do it. Hell, we know that AIPAC absolutely does it. The only group in America that has been trained to vote unconditionally is us. That ends the day we decide it ends. That ends the day that we decide it is. And that day is today. Dr. King died in Memphis supporting the sanitation worker strike. A strike. You know what a strike is? A strike is a group of people withholding their labor until they get paid. That is what we are doing. We are withholding our vote until we get paid. That is the most Dr. King thing we could possibly do. Don't let any pulpit, any pundit, any panelist tell you otherwise. Y'all can go to my org's website, www.naasd.org. Go download the Repair Act presidential priorities. We're going to be updating them. You all can go see them. You can go download the stuff. There's some other things on our website that we want y'all to go check out too. You can go see this, the 100-day campaign that these 5 bills that I talked about are a part of. You can go read them. They're right on the website. And then you can go share them with your elected officials too, who claim that they represent you. See, the work is already done. We just need people to help us out. You can go just ask them, which one of these you introduced? Ask them which one they co-sponsor. Ask them which one they whipping votes for. And if the answer is none, you already have your answers about whether they deserve your vote or not. So I'm going to leave y'all with that one tonight. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I see the chat blew up. Thank y'all so much. I really, really appreciate it. Sunday night, 8 p.m., I'll be live again with my 3rd installment of the series, The Debt. So y'all can check that out. Go check out the rest of my videos. Hey, and if, like I said, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 20K. I'm trying to get there by the end of the month. We're so close to being at 20K. I'm pretty sure I can get there before the end of the month if y'all help me out. So thank you all so much. If this episode hit you, I want y'all to do 3 things. Okay? 3 things. Like it, share it, and give it to somebody who needs to hear it. Okay? That's all I ask. That's all I ask. Till next time, Coach Nation, stay informed, get active,